Hi, I'm Karlin Borisenko. In early 2020, I was the knitting Democrat who accidentally went viral on the internet for going to a Trump rally and then left the party. I became the conservative darling, was on all the shows, traveled around the country, and then realized that conservatives were no better than Democrats. If there's one thing that I've learned, it's that both political tribes are two sides of the same coin. But it wasn't all bad. On my journey, I became obsessed with understanding the woke ideology and the culture war. I broke the story of the city of Seattle doing segregated training with its employees.
How bad has this stuff become? The city of Seattle has now put out, I'm not kidding you, this is according to Dr. Carolyn Borisenko, who's an organizational psychologist. The city of Seattle asked its white employees to voluntarily spend a day off in a training about their internalized racial superiority.
I broke the story that led to the first ever federal lawsuit against critical race theory in the schools. I broke the Coke Be Less White story, one of the biggest anti-woke stories of all time. It got over 30 million views. Coca-Cola's corporate headquarters even had to change their outgoing voicemail.
Throughout the past few days, you may have seen inaccurate reporting on the content of our recently launched diversity, equity, and inclusion training program.
I exposed the schools in Burlington, Vermont for grooming middle school children live on the internet. They called me an unwoke cult leader for that. And the Vermont Human Rights Commission slandered me publicly as being a hate channel. I even got called a hero in Breitbart for exposing that the Washington Post was writing a hit piece on Christopher Rufo. I have broken story after story after story about what's going on in the public schools, from Cambridge, Massachusetts, to autistic sex education, to the Department of Education in Michigan, literally training teachers all over the state how to groom children. I wrote a book called Actively Unwoke, the ultimate guide for fighting back against the woke insanity in your life. I host a podcast all about fighting back, and I'm downloading all of my knowledge to you on my Substack, karlin.substack.com. The world is a crazy place. We are literally surrounded by cults on all sides. On this show, we're going to do a deep dive into all aspects of the culture war, and I will show you the dark, dystopian underbellies on both sides. Here are the commitments I'll make to you. I will always tell you the truth. I will always bring you receipts. And if you stick with me, I promise you will see the world differently. Welcome to the cult. Please mount that like button for me and subscribe if you feel so inclined. Well, hello everyone. Happy Thursday. Welcome to the cult. We're finally back on at our normal time this week. Of course, it has been an insane week. We have done not one, not two, not three, not one, not two, not three, but 4 spy streams this week. And for our schedule, it kind of messed up our schedule, didn't it? Because we did a spy stream on Monday at the normal streaming time, a spy stream on Tuesday at the normal streaming time, a spy stream yesterday, and then we had an extra bonus spy stream last night. And so it kind of flubbed up our streaming schedule a little bit this week, but I'm glad to be back on our normal time now. We did learn a lot from those spy streams. We got some great clips, some great insider info. And because we've had a little bit of a heavier content this week, you can only watch so much socialism. I thought we would have a light day. Does anyone else want to have a light day? Do you just want to kick back and maybe do some internet gossip? Because I do love me some gossip. I do love it when all of the worst people on the internet start fighting, or like even in real life too. I mean, it really has been a banner. Like the last 24 hours have been pretty amazing. Not only in the last 24 hours have these socialists that are protesting the Biden administration's reaction to what's going on in the Middle East, the socialists stormed the DNC. Like the leftists have gone into full, like this, you know how we talk on our socialism streams about how the real far left isn't even worried about the right at all. They're not worried about conservatives at all. They're much more interested in destroying the Democratic Party than they are in the conservatives. So the socialist Democrats stormed the DNC yesterday, and it was great. And it's like, it's one of those moments where you're just like, I hate all of you people. why don't we just not kill each other? Of course, we would never want anyone to kill anyone. We don't endorse violence on this channel. But can we just figuratively kill each other off? Like, can we kill off all the bad ideas? It was great. And then the other thing that happened yesterday is, of course, we got an escalation in the war at the Daily Wire. And we're going to talk a lot about that today. It was everything I didn't know I needed. Oh, Tayton, you're right. We also have James Lindsay fighting with the radical feminists. And listen, man. There are some things I appreciate about the radical feminists. I actually think Redux does a really good job of covering issues that I'm interested in relating to all the different ways that the left is screwing up in our world. I don't think it's actually I don't think it's a bad publication, but man, I cannot stand the radical feminists. Is there anyone here that I apologize if anyone here is a radical feminist? I'm sure you're not one of the people I'm talking about, but mostly the radical feminists kind of suck. They're everything annoying about women that I hate and why I don't generally have women friends in the first place. And now they've started attacking James Lindsay, and James Lindsay got locked out of his Twitter account, and then he came back and he just started calling them all a bunch of hags. James Lindsay was posting memes all day yesterday calling the radical feminists a bunch of hags and all these witch memes. And then then James Lindsay was I'm going to spend a full month doing a deep dive into feminism and how it's fucked up our culture. And I was like, oh shit. We need these moments of levity. We need these moments of comic relief because the world is going to hell in a handbasket and we're sliding into the Marxist utopia, and I don't know if there's anything we can do to stop it. And so sometimes we just have to have some fun. Oh, by the way, speaking of which, can I let you guys in on just a little bit of inside info? Do you mind if I take a point of personal privilege before we get to our subject matter today? Let me know if you mind if I've got some exciting news. I'm not going to share all of it, but I want to just give you guys a little teaser if you want it. DW, check your subscription status, everyone. YouTube has unsubscribed me from this channel twice this month. You know, it's interesting you say that, DW, because I've actually been hearing this from a lot of people. Now, YouTube has always batch unsubscribed people from my channel, in the dark of night. For years they've been doing this, but I've actually been hearing this from more and more people lately. In fact, who was it? Oh my gosh. Sam. It was Sam. Sam is a member of my community. Sam comes to all my community Zoom calls. He comes to almost every single stream. YouTube unsubscribed Sam from one of my streams the other day in the middle of the stream. Yeah, they unsubscribed Sam in the middle of a stream that he was watching and participating in. And so he had to go get on another account to he also subscribed to the channel to be able to chat in. So if double check, man, make sure you're subscribed. There ain't a whole lot I can do to get around YouTube bullshit. You got to take personal responsibility. This is why I stream at a very consistent time every single day, Monday through Friday at 5 p.m. unless there's something else going on. On Saturdays, we do Socialism Saturday at 6 p.m. If I'm not showing up in your recommendations, if the streams aren't showing up for you, just come find the channel, man. That's all I can really do about it, but I appreciate everyone keeping a watchful eye. Okay, I'm going to take a point of personal privilege before we get into our content today because just something really exciting happened. And this has kind of been brewing for a minute, but I wasn't actually sure what it was until I'm still not sure exactly what it is. I'm going to have to be a little bit vague, okay? I had a really good phone call earlier today, and I've been kind of talking to these people for a minute. And I've done stuff with these people over the years. I'm not going to say who it is because there's nothing official yet or anything. But it just felt really good. And I want to just share, it felt really good. There is a pretty big independent network that is interested in helping to promote my stuff. And I'm not going to tell you who it is, but I've had emails with them. I've had a couple phone calls with them. And what like, and this is like I've gone down this road a couple times before with different kind of like, platforms and outlets where like they pretend they're interested and then like it just never happens. But the reason I think this might be different is that the person that I talked to today, who is decently high up in this organization, she watched the How to Speak Socialist training not once but twice. She watched the whole thing. This is a 2.5 hour training. She watched the whole thing not once but twice, and she was able to articulate all of like the different like, oh, she got it. She got it. She understood it. And this was a new thing. Like there's like any organization that's ever reached out to me before, they haven't actually gotten what I do. They don't understand it. They never took the time to understand it. This one did. No, it's not the Daily Wire. It's not the Daily Wire at all. No way. No way. And they want to help promote my stuff, and they want to have me like go on all their shows, and they want me to be like a regular, and they want me to do like clips for them explaining different aspects of what we do and like all that stuff, and they want to essentially use their resources to push what I'm doing out to a much bigger audience than I have on my own. And I'm not going to tell you who it is, but because again, nothing's final yet. But I guess I just wanted to say, like, the reason I bring this up is it felt really effing good. And it was just like, you guys know, I've been on like the verge of quitting lately. Like every 6 months or so, I get to the point where I'm like, F all this. I'm wasting my time. No one is listening to me. There is nothing that I can do to compete with the conservative influencers who are teaching their audiences incorrect things with mountains of money and like PR and all of this stuff. And like, it just felt really good. And I don't know. It's so cheesy. Like I'm tearing up. I'm like, oh my God, someone finally fucking gets it. So that was a little bit of a white pill today. And I'm really happy about it. And I hope it's real. And I hope something comes of it. And yeah, so I wanted to share that with you guys at the beginning, because you know what? I don't get a lot of good news like that, because most of the time I'm just like spending my time watching socialism, okay, and it kind of sucks, and it sucks the soul out of me. And then I find all these crazy things and no one listens. And I'm like, yo, you guys don't know how effed you are, and they start reading about something that doesn't even matter and all this stuff. Anyway, so it was a good day. It's been a really good day. And I wanted to share that. And hopefully everyone cross their fingers and their toes that this turns out to be a real thing and not more bullshit. And so we'll see what comes of it. But what we're going to be doing today is, for a little bit of fun, for a little bit of levity, we're going to watch the interview that came out yesterday with Tucker Carlson and Candace Owens. Now, at the top, I want to make sure my opinion on this is very clear. I think Candace Owens is a narcissistic bitch. I do not like Candace Owens. Candace Owens definitely doesn't like me. I'll tell you that. Candace Owens proactively sought me out to block me on Twitter when I never even interacted with her. So I know I did something to piss off Candace Owens. I don't know exactly what did it, but I know I did something. And so I do not like Candace Owens at all. I have heard way too many stories about the bullshit that Candace Owens has done behind the scenes to have any respect for this person. I think she's a narcissist. I think she's a grifter. I think she will say whatever she needs to say in order to make money and advance herself and have that status. And she'll even marry a gay aristocrat from England in order to like live in the lifestyle of which she feels entitled to. I have no respect for Candace Owens at all in any way. But I also have no respect for Ben Shapiro and the Daily Wire. And I think that when horrible people on the internet are fighting, it's a good thing for us. And you have to give credit where credit is due. Sometimes, even horrible people can be right about things. And even though I'm not thoroughly convinced that Candace Owens actually cares about what's going on in the Middle East. Like, why would she? Really? I'm not convinced that she actually cares about it in any real way, other than I think that Candace wants to leave the Daily Wire. I think Candace has probably had enough of Ben Shapiro's bullshit. I also don't think the Daily Wire has any love lost for Candace. And so what I think is happening is that we're kind of in like a little bit of a Mexican standoff between like the Daily Wire is there's some reason that the Daily Wire has not fired Candace Owens yet, because Candace Owens has come out vocally against what Israel is doing in Palestine. She's come out vocally against all of the people calling for a genocide in Palestine to make Gaza into a parking lot. And there's some reason that the Daily Wire has not fired her yet. I think there's either something in her contract where they're gonna like it would hurt them to an unreasonable degree to fire her, or I think that they know it's a bad look. Because like this is one of those organizations where you have like Ben Shapiro, intellectual dark web, like, can't we all just have reasonable conversations? Why are we censoring things? We shouldn't be censoring things. Like, you can't go from an organization that literally made their name saying, why are we censoring things? We shouldn't be doing that, to firing someone for disagreeing with your political position. And so I think it's a PR move. I also, though, think that Candace probably has something in her contract that would lead to the Daily Wire losing a lot of money if they fired her, or like there's some sort of clause that she has in there protecting her. I don't know what it is, but you know, I think that there's something going on. I just want to take the super chat from Naruto. Lauren Chen gave her thoughts on this on a stream today. Next week, she's streaming with Laura Loomer to discuss the Israel-Gaza situation. Well, I will pray for Lauren Chen. I wouldn't want to stream with Laura Loomer talking about this situation, but I will wish her the very best of luck. Now, for those of you who haven't been caught up with what's going on in the drama of the Daily Wire, I want to start off with this. How many in the chat? Let me ask this a different way. Is there anyone in the chat that has not seen this video? Do you guys know what this video is? So, Ben Shapiro, as Candace Owens has been like mouthing off against Israel, which of course is never going to go over well with Ben Shapiro. Ben Shapiro kind of kept a little bit quiet, but Ben Shapiro has been acting like a raging goddamn lunatic for weeks. Okay, a lot of people haven't seen it. Okay. Ben Shapiro has been acting like a raging lunatic for weeks. And so you know that Candace Owens speaking out against what Israel is doing in Gaza, you know, Ben Shapiro was like tweaking about that, like internally, but maybe he didn't feel like he could say anything publicly about it. And so what happened is this video is of Ben Shapiro at some sort of like private like house party event where he probably didn't realize even that he was being recorded, because sometimes when you get used to having a camera on you, you just you don't realize when it's happening, because it's like it's not something that is distinct from the pattern that you're used to, right? So Ben Shapiro was giving this speech at this little private house party where he said some unflattering things about Candace Owens. Let's take a listen.
Yes, the question was about Candace Owens. I think her behavior during this is disgraceful. Without a doubt, I think it's absolutely. Yeah, and she supports my company. I think she's been absolutely disgraceful. I think that her faux sophistication on these particular issues has been ridiculous. It's not faux sophistication, it's ridiculous. Everybody can see the moves that she's making and the things that she's saying, and I find them disreputable.
So I know the sound is a little hard to hear there, but basically Ben Shapiro was like, Candace Owens' behavior in all of this has been disgraceful. And then Candace Owens played Ben Shapiro like a goddamn fiddle. You really have to give Candace Owens credit on this one. Candace Owens, for all of her faults, and she has many, she played Ben Shapiro like a GD fiddle, because she knew probably that Ben at some point was going to say something about her. This video gets leaked. It's like it goes viral on Twitter, and the response that Candace Owens had, you can see it in the quote tweet that Ben Shapiro had, is blessed are the peacemakers, they shall be called the children of God. And she did this whole like Bible thing. And this was Candace Owens' response to Ben Shapiro. Now, why this was masterful on Candace Owens' part is that she didn't get angry at Ben Shapiro for shitting on her. She didn't become belligerent like Ben Shapiro did. She didn't come at him aggressively and start calling him names. All she did was quote the Bible. Now, do I believe that Candace Owens is a Christian? No. No. Not in any way do I believe that Candace Owens is a Christian, but that's not the point. What Candace Owens did was she was setting up Ben Shapiro to get him to react. Remember, guys, the goal, like Candace Owens knows rules for radicals, right? The goal is getting your enemy to react. The reaction is the goal. And conservatives fall into this trap all the time where conservatives don't understand that every time the left does something and the conservatives just react to any single thing the left does, the reaction is the goal. Candace Owens came from the left. Candace Owens understands how the left works. She understands that the goal with this tweet was not to be like, I am a beautiful and pious Christian. Okay, well, that was probably part of it because Candace Owens is a narcissist and wants to be perceived well, fine. But her goal with this tweet was to get Ben Shapiro to react. And Ben Shapiro, like the conservative that he is, couldn't effing help himself. And he walked right into the trap and he took the bait that Candace Owens set for him and he retweeted her and said, Candace, if you feel that taking money from the Daily Wire somehow comes between you and God, then by all means quit. So what happened? And Ben Shapiro, who has been a political operative since he was 16 years old, Ben Shapiro should have known better. Ben Shapiro should have absolutely known how this tweet was going to be taken. And he's so caught up in his feelings. Facts don't care about your feelings. Ben Shapiro is so caught up in his feelings over the fact that Candace Owens has a different opinion than him and then dared to quote the Bible. He's so caught up in his feelings that he didn't stop to think maybe it's not a good look to tell Candace Owens to quit the Daily Wire for quoting the Bible. So Ben Shapiro did what he did. He told her to quit for quoting the Bible. And then Candace responded, and she said, you have been acting unprofessional and emotionally unhinged for weeks now, and we have all had to sit back and allow it and have all tried to I've all tried to exercise exceeding understanding for your raw emotions. And she was like, I'm not going to take this shit anymore, Ben. I'm not going to do it anymore. It's just so fucking great. It's so great. And so now the war is on at the Daily Wire. And on the same day that this happened, Tucker Carlson released a video interview with Candace Owens on the same day. Just what a time to be alive. What a time to be alive. But so guys, what we're going to do is we're going to watch this and we're going to talk about it. Do I have anything else to say on this? Oh, Dave Rubin also weighed in on the situation. Dave Rubin agrees with Pedro Gonzalez that he thinks that Candace is trying to get herself fired so she can monetize her victimhood. So Dave Rubin and Ben Shapiro are like bosom buddies on this one. They're BFFs. Everyone, according to Dave Rubin and Ben Shapiro, everyone who says anything against what Israel is doing is a Jew hater, anti-Semite, horrible person, should be fired from their job. Like, that's their position on it. But I do actually think that Candace Owens is playing into the victimhood narrative here. I think that Candace Owens wants out of her contract at the Daily Wire. She wants to set herself up to probably do an independent Megyn Kelly sort of thing where she's just doing her own thing and she wants to be left alone. I also think, and I did a Twitter space about this where we talked about this last night. You can go and listen to the recording. I also think that Candace Owens is like, I think the whole Steven Crowder episode showed Candace Owens how badly the Daily Wire bent her over and fucked her in contract negotiations. So I think that ever since the whole Steven Crowder thing, where Crowder exposed the shady contract negotiations of the Daily Wire, I think, like, and I think Nick Rekieta talked about this, like, when Candace was like, kind of processing what Steven Crowder was doing with the Daily Wire in terms of like exposing their contract negotiations, I think something clicked in Candace's head where she realized how badly the Daily Wire probably screwed her in contract negotiations. And ever since, she's been trying to figure out a way to get out of it. And this is the way. So again, I don't think that Candace Owens is like an innocent little, like, she's not like, I am but an innocent pious Christian that is quoting the Bible. I don't think that's what's happening at all. I think that Candace Owens saw an opportunity to get fired, to be able to monetize getting fired, to get out of her contract with the Daily Wire, which is probably not advantageous to Candace Owens. So even though I think that Dave Rubin has lost his fucking mind and should never be trusted again, I actually don't think he's wrong about that one. I really don't. But that doesn't mean that Candace is wrong about what she's saying about Israel either. Naruto says Candace Owens didn't even explicitly mention him in the tweet, which makes Ben Shapiro's reaction all the more glorious. I mean, I think we all knew. What happened there, Naruto. And then Yasmin says she's grifting to the Groypers now and Nick Fuentes. Oh, is she ever? And Nick Fuentes is loving this. And speaking of Nick Fuentes, before we get into the Tucker Carlson video, I want to get the Nick Fuentes take because I have started a new satire side project that is definitely not a good idea and is absolutely going to end up with me getting canceled on the internet. Because as you guys know, I've been dabbling accidentally in the land of Groyper for like over a month now, like a month and a half. And I've always kind of kept an eye on the Groypers and I knew what they were up to, but I've been kind of like really kind of like more so than I ever really thought I would dabbling in the land of Groyper. And in the process of dabbling in the land of Groyper, I have come to the conclusion that Nick Fuentes has been so fucked over by the conservative right. It's not even funny. And I was thinking about this. I've been thinking about doing this for like the last couple of weeks, and I just finally made the decision to pull the trigger and just see what happens because I think the timing is good for this conversation. I started another Substack. It's my 87th Substack that I have, and it's called Nick and I. And it's called Nick and I Cancel Culture a Love Story because I'm trying to be funny and sarcastic. But what this is it's this Substack that I'm doing, and I'll pop the link in the chat if you guys want to check it out. One of the things that I think is interesting about Nick Fuentes is he brings up all of these questions about cancel culture and like the nature of how information is consumed and how just all these different warring political tribes kind of work. I think he brings up a lot of interesting questions that quite frankly are much bigger than Nick Fuentes. And I wanted to be able to speak to some of those questions in like an interesting way. And so this is my attempt to do this, in which I'm writing a Substack that's about cancel culture, in which Nick Fuentes is the protagonist because the dude is like at the epicenter of cancel culture. He is the standard by which all other cancellations are measured, right? He is the protagonist, but I'm the narrator because this is my story and this is my commentary. And so it's satire, it's dry humor, it's cultural commentary, all rolled into one little juicy kind of packet. And last night, and I just barely started it, so you guys can check it out if you want to do that. I have plans for this. I have a vision for how this is going to unfold that I think is actually going to be really cool. But I want to show the clip that I took from Nick's show last night because he just described the situation so perfectly and took a victory lap about being right about the whole thing. So let's get the Nick Fuentes take on the entire situation.
There was a video that leaked Monday night. I think it was very late Monday or very early Tuesday. A video leaked apparently from a private event where Ben Shapiro called out Candace Owens for her equivocation on the Gaza war issue, or rather, I should say, the false equivalency that she has drawn between the genocide against the Palestinians and the Hamas attack on Israel in October. He called her a disgrace and said that her coverage is disreputable to the company and that she is not sophisticated and all this. So Candace Owens clapped back hard yesterday, and she basically said that Jews only care about money and that they should instead believe in Jesus and serve only God rather than the real father, the devil. At least that I'm summarizing. That's not precisely what she said, but it was something like that. Today, Ben Shapiro told Candace Owens, well, if you think that it's about money versus God, then you should just quit. You should just quit my company and you should just leave. There's a door, bitch. That's what Shapiro said today. So then Candace Owens came in and she said, listen, you bitch, you are so emotional over Israel. That's all you care about. And we've all put up with it for a long time. But our patience has its limits. And you can't tell me that I can't post the Bible. So this is getting intense. It's getting heated at Daily Wire. They're ready to kill each other. And it's blacks versus Jews, just like last year. So we'll be talking all about the drama. I mean, that's really it. But I mean, we'll go through the rest of it and some other things. Elon Musk dropping red pills, saying that Jews hate white people. It's Charlie Kirk threw his hat in and said that Candace Owens isn't anti-Semitic because she visited the Wailing Wall. Everyone's getting in on this. And the reality is, I have been right. I was right. I am right. I'm the only one that's been saying this for 7 years. Okay? I got canceled. I got made fun of. I got fired from my job at RSBN. I got shit on and treated like crap for 7 years. But I was right. And now everyone can see it. Now everyone knows it. That's, hey, breaking news. I'm right. All right. Breaking news. You were wrong. I'm right. So that's the show. So we're going to talk all about that. Yeah, it's pretty exciting. Yeah, I became the most infamous person in politics, and I'm just being vindicated in real time every day. It's kind of awesome. So we'll talk about that. Hey, the consciousness is rising, okay? The consciousness is rising. People are becoming aware. People are waking up. And, some of that stuff is jokes, okay? Some of it is very funny and everything. But people are waking up and they're realizing that politics is completely subverted and controlled by people that are not Christian and don't want to put America first. And that's Shapiro, and it's a lot of these people. It's the ADL. And the sooner that everybody realizes it and identifies those people, the better. That's the mission. It's what I've been saying all along. So we'll get into all that.
All right. And so, hang on. The volume was a little low, so I turned it up in the browser. But you know what? Listen, man, I gotta say, like, first of all, I appreciated his like paraphrase of what happened with the situation. I appreciate a good I was right moment. I actually, what this article is about on the Substack is like basically like, well, it's partially, it's about a lot of things, but in this article, I explicitly say, like, I understand taking the victory lap because there have been so many effing times when I made a prediction about something and got like raked over the coals by conservatives and called all these names and was like, had smear campaigns spread about me and like all this bullshit. Nowhere on the scale that Nick has had to deal with. So it's like a much smaller scale, but like I get that propensity to have like the I was right moment. And so I had a great appreciation for that. Naruto says, there's a shocking lack of mounting the like button. I agree. Mount the like button, guys. We're about to get into the main show with the Candace Owens Tucker Carlson interview. Mount the like button. If you don't feel like mounting it, you can give it a high five. You can shake its hand. You can put your arm around the like button. Just don't smash. We're not hooligans on my channel, all right? We're not like sloppy teenagers. Like, be an adult. Do whatever you want. No smashing allowed. And then Nick does need a $2 right. Nick Fuentes needs a $2 tip jar. That's exactly right. That's exactly right. I think he should have a $2 Nick is right tip jar, just like I have a $2 Carlin is right tip jar. So there you go. But so the reason I wanted to show that though is, listen, man. There's a lot of excitement. There's a lot of things to celebrate in this whole affair. And I almost think that like this is one of those moments that can perhaps bring us all together. Nick Fuentes is starting to look like the voice of reason, which I've been saying that Nick Fuentes has been the voice of reason on this Israel-Palestine stuff since the beginning of the conflict. And now other people are starting to see that Nick Fuentes is the voice of reason. I've started opening my mind to the disproportional impact that Jews have on our politics and all that stuff. And I think it's an appropriate time to have that conversation too. That's part of why I started this project, to be honest, because it feels like this is a time when we can actually have the conversation about what's going on. Now, I'm an individualist. I don't believe in judging people based on their group identity. So like, I'm not going to judge you based on the fact that you're Jewish or black or gay or like a man or a woman or like whatever. I'm going to judge who you are as an individual. But I think he raises some interesting questions, and he's been resoundingly canceled for those questions. And so that's what this project is about. It's about examining kind of like how cancel culture works, why it works like that, how you can weave in other stories to show that this is not just a thing with Nick Fuentes. This has happened to a lot of people. It's just that Nick Fuentes has experienced it on a much greater scale than a lot of people. And so he's and that kid just doesn't give up. He just keeps coming back. He keeps resurrecting himself and keeps coming back in new forms. Anyway, so you can find out if you want to follow along with that Substack. It's going to be kind of like dry humor, satire, a little bit like, dark humor sometimes, but it's always going to be like him being the protagonist of the story, but I'm the narrator telling the story about cancel culture, asking interesting questions, stuff like that. You can find that over at nickandI@substack.com if you want to go ahead and subscribe. And I know that the Groypers are reading it because I can look at the stats. I don't agree with this. I don't think he is a total racist. I think this is a story. I don't think he wants to marry a black woman, but I don't think that he hates black women. It's one of those things. Anyway, if you don't want to follow along with it because you've got feelings about Nick Fuentes, then that's fine. But that's another project that I'm doing. And people are just going to have to work out their fee-fees about it. Guess what, guys? If you don't want to consume content, it's just very, very easy. You don't consume it. But, no one is forcing you to read a blog. All right? Calm the fuck down. Anyway, no, I did not watch the Dave Smith-Laura Loomer debate, and I don't plan to because I don't particularly... Well, Laura Loomer's fine. Like, I think what I appreciate about Laura Loomer is, like, she's a spitfire. I appreciate, like, the fiery personality. I would never want to cross Laura Loomer. I want to stay as far away from Laura Loomer as I possibly can. Dave Smith, I don't really have much use for, if I'm honest about it. But so I don't think I'm gonna watch that. Yes, free speech is for everyone, even Nick Fuentes. And it's especially true for him because a lot of people, this is why I feel bad for this kid. A lot of people are starting to say the things that he's been saying for years that led to his excommunication from polite society. And I think we should be able to acknowledge that because it's not cool, man. Not cool at all. All right, guys, let's get into our main show. Let's do it. I have not watched this interview yet. I have no idea what this is going to be about. Well, I do because there are timestamps. But guys, please mount the like button for me. Please make sure you're subscribed on whatever platform you're watching on. Hello to everyone watching on Rumble. I'm going to pop the Rumble chat out so I can see you guys as well. Let me see. I've got Sith. I've got Mardax over there. Race and Jen. Got some chat going on Rumble. Thank you guys for that. Please make sure you're subscribed over there as well. We are watching the Tucker Carlson interview with Candace Owens, and I will commentate as I feel necessary.
Watch Candace Owens.
Let's get this party started.
In 1616, the Roman Inquisition hauled in Galileo, the Italian astronomer, and commanded him to stop saying that the Earth revolves around the sun. Shut up, they said. Everyone knows that's wrong, and you're a bad person for saying otherwise. That's a well-known story, of course, and we laugh about it now 400 years later because the authorities were completely wrong. Galileo was a hero.
Hang on, I want to highlight this chat from Story Time with Friends. My new friend Edwin, who I met yesterday on Twitter, who has a great radio voice. You guys should go listen to Edwin read stories because great radio voice. And he says Ben Shapiro inadvertently mainstreamed the Groypers yesterday because he couldn't self-regulate. This is so true. By the way, you know what? I was thinking about this earlier and I wasn't exactly sure how to phrase this. Like, Nick Fuentes got censored on Rumble for his last AFPAC speech, which I watched on this channel at one point because I was like, why the fuck did Rumble censor Nick Fuentes? Like, what did he say? And the reason that they censored him is because he called for a holy war. But like, it was pretty obvious to me that it was like figurative, but I was also kind of like, okay, I can kind of understand it, but it did seem like figurative that he was calling for a holy war. Ben Shapiro literally started a holy war yesterday. Ben Shapiro telling Candace Owens to quit her job for quoting the Bible. That's starting more of a holy war than Nick Fuentes is starting. Like, Ben Shapiro solidified this thing about, like, are Christians and Jews really aligned? Why can't we quote the Bible to someone who is Jewish without him telling us to quit our job? I mean, this is Ben Shapiro's fault, man, all because Ben Shapiro couldn't regulate his own emotions. Facts don't care about Ben Shapiro's feelings, guys. It's just the way it goes.
They are fools. And we explain this by pointing out that they were religious nuts. They were superstitious. Nothing like that could ever happen now. But it turns out the one constant in human history is human nature. Not only does it happen now, it happens more than ever. Watch Candace Owens get widely attacked, not by one person, but by everyone for being right.
People like Candace Owens and others have been flagrant at putting out disinformation into the public sphere.
The top performing post of the week was this post by Candace Owens, a far right-wing commentator and a favorite on Fox, denigrating George Floyd. It just shows how this website is a radicalization engine.
You do have this sort of parade of MAGA world that are parroting Russian talking points.
Tucker Carlson, Candace Owens, Tulsi Gabbard, I think somewhere along the line, they don't believe this, but they think that it's in their interest to say these things. These people are almost collaborators.
That Candace Owens video was the top video on Facebook this past week, and she's saying all sorts of things about George Floyd and denying any systemic racism problems. And so there's a deeper fundamental issue with what the Facebook algorithm and all social media algorithms, what kind of content they reward.
Others doubled down on vaccine disinformation. Folks like right-wing commentator Candace Owens, who told followers that she wouldn't take the vaccine even on her deathbed.
Notice why they were attacking Candace Owens. What did she say? She said, well, actually, George Floyd was not murdered by a racist cop, much less by a systemically racist society. She said, actually, the vaccine doesn't work very well and it may be dangerous. She went on to say, no, Ukraine is not going to win the war against Russia. And for saying these things, every one of which has proven true, she was attacked as an immoral person, a racist, and a traitor to her country. What's interesting, however, is that no one leveling those attacks ever apologized to her. And so maybe like Galileo, she's going to have to wait.
That was actually the point I made in that post that I showed you guys last night on that nickandI.substack.com, where my point was that, like, you can say something that's completely correct. You can get raked over the coals for that publicly in a way that's completely ridiculous. And once you're proven right, no one is ever going to apologize to you. Ever. I had Jamie Mitchell of Gays Against Groomers spread a massive smear campaign about me because I told the truth about what was going on at her organization before anyone else did. This fucking Gays Against Groomers, lifted up by the conservative right as like one of their hero organizations, a featured speaking slot at the Moms for Liberty conference, all of that. Gays Against Groomers is a corrupt, grifting organization that has had over 2 dozen employees. walk out on them and whistleblow about Jamie's behavior. I've covered the whole thing on my Substack. There's like 5 or 6 articles all about it. And it's like, I got raked over the coals for that. I had a massive smear campaign spread about me. I got raked over the coals when I said that the day that the draft decision of Roe v. Wade was released back in May of 2022, I said, the midterms are over, no red wave. I got raked over the coals for that. And like, so, and again, Candace Owens gets raked over the coals on a much larger scale than I do. Someone like Nick Fuentes gets raked over the coals on a much larger scale than I do. So I'm not trying to say like, woe is me and all that stuff. My point is that when you get raked over the coals by a mob, they never come back and apologize once you're absolutely and unequivocally proven right. What does happen is they say, oh, you're a psycho, you're fat, you're ugly, she's crazy, she was always crazy. And they just continue to smear and smear and smear and smear and smear. It's like the fact that you were completely factually correct in your predictions, in what you said, and evidence bore it out over time, you never get the I told you so. That's kind of why I like that Nick Fuentes video, honestly, because he took his damn I told you so, as he well should. Candace Owens should take an I told you so for every single time she's right, because the mob will never acknowledge that they were wrong. They tried to destroy you over something that they were wrong about. There will never be any comeuppance. There will never be any retribution. If you don't take your I told you so, no one's going to give it to you, man. So take your fucking victory lap. Take the I told you so.
And for her descendants to get the praise for her truth telling.
Yeah, this is correct. Like, Edwin, you and I are about to be like best friends. I'll tell you what. Storytime with Friends says, Carlin, the conservative influencer activist space is grotesquely transactional. True. It's spiritually demeaning. True. Beyond the reputation aspects. Well, I'll tell you, man, as someone who, conservatives tried their best to ruin my reputation, and they fucked it up in many meaningful ways, that I can never get back, by the way. I can never get back the reputational damage that these assholes have done to me. So I don't think it's just beyond the reputational aspects, because for someone who had her reputation fucked up by conservatives for saying things that they didn't want to hear, I had my life fucked up. I had my friends' lives fucked up. Like, people that I love that have been in my life for a very long time, their lives were disrupted by this bullshit. So like, it's not insignificant. But what I will say is, like, you're absolutely correct. It's all just transactional. It's like, who can help me right now? Well, you can't help me? Go fuck yourself then. None of these people care about anything. That's my real problem with the vast majority of like influencers and content creators on the internet. None of them actually care about a goddamn thing other than what is going to make them money, or make them famous, or give them status, or get them on the news, or have people talking about them, or getting likes and clicks and da 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 da. And the conservative base falls for it over and over and over and over and over again, because a lot of them, not all of them, a lot of them are simple people who don't fucking think.
And we thought that seems unfair. So we decided to invite Candace Owens into the studio and congratulate her face to face. Candace Owens, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
By the way, you're about to have another descendant.
Actually, yeah, 40 weeks, but I was not missing this. I was so excited. I'm honored to be here.
Well, so it's a little weird to see yourself. Look, we all get things wrong. I certainly have gotten a lot of things wrong. I think it's fair to be attacked for getting it wrong. But if you get it right, and it's proven that you got it right, and in 3 instances it has been proven that you did on the biggest issues of the day, shouldn't the people who attacked you apologize? And shouldn't someone at least point out, hey, Candace Owens was right about that?
No, I think what tends to happen is they have too much ego and they're too proud, and they want to sort of move on and pretend that they weren't as radical as they were in their stances, and calling you a grandma killer, if you wanted to go out the door and get groceries, or if you wanted to maybe see your grandma, because grandma shouldn't be dying alone, even if she is dying. So it takes a tremendous amount of humility to admit that you were wrong. People prefer to then pretend the internet will forget, and just that they had more nuance than they did on the issue of the day, which is fine with me. I'm totally.
I mean, it's one thing not to admit you're wrong. I understand it's difficult to do that. I have to force myself. But to attack other people for being right and then apologize for it does seem immoral.
It is immoral. And when we're living in an environment where there is a lot of media immorality, people would rather you parrot certain talking points rather than have a meaningful discussion and a meaningful dialogue.
By the way, can we just remind ourselves, Candace Owens literally recorded private phone calls with Nicole Arbor, and then what seemed to be on the verge on her very first episode of her show with the Daily Wire of using those recordings against Nicole Arbor after she set Nicole Arbor up to ambush her on that show. So, like, Candace Owens can be like, people should always do the right thing, and I am a Christian, and we are all moral and good human beings. But let's just remind ourselves. I'm going to turn my mic down a little bit because I know I'm not in balance. Can we just remind ourselves that Candace Owens is not a good person? And no matter what she might say to present herself as a good person in this interview, she is not a good person at all. She will never apologize when she gets something wrong. She will never apologize when she throws someone under the bus. But this is all just about image. And I want everyone to really make sure you understand that. You can agree with some of the things that she says. That's fine. But don't confuse the issue. She's not a good person.
And they don't accept it. And at the moment that they start to censor speech and they start talking, calling you names, like calling you a grandma killer, calling you a pro-Putin puppet, it's because they don't actually believe what they're saying. It just, these are ad hominem attacks to dissuade from having an actual debate. And there always should be an actual debate on every issue.
And when they never explain what you got wrong, they don't call it wrong. They call it disinformation, which suggests it could be right. That's usually a tell. And speaking of, so I was out of the country yesterday. And didn't have adequate internet access on the plane to really follow this. And I don't understand the context exactly, but the internet was dominated yesterday by video of Ben Shapiro, who you work with at the Daily Wire. I think it's fair to say attacking you. Here's the video. I just want to get your reaction to it.
Yes, the question is about Candace Owens. I think her behavior during this has been disgraceful. Without a doubt, I think it's not I think she's been absolutely disgraceful. I think that her faux sophistication on these particular issues has been ridiculous. It's not faux sophistication, it's ridiculous. Everybody can see the moves that she's making and the things that she's saying, and I find them disreputable.
So maybe there's a point in the video where he explains what exactly you did wrong, how you were wrong. I haven't seen it. But to call somebody, quote, absolutely disgraceful, particularly a coworker, seems like a pretty big step. And I really don't know the background here. What is that about?
There isn't much of a background. I saw the video when everybody else saw it when I woke up.
No one warned you about it.
Nobody warned me about it. It looks like maybe he didn't know he was being recorded. It looks like it was some sort of a private event. I got no clarity on the issue that he was particularly speaking on. And in what was said, I can't respond to it beyond what he's saying because it's just ad hominem attacks. I don't know.
Yeah, because it's not, we disagree, or I don't think she's correct, or maybe she doesn't know what she's talking about. It's absolutely disgraceful.
Yeah, exactly. And so I can't respond to it on a level of intellect because there's nothing that he has expressed in that, at least in that short clip, that he fundamentally disagrees with in terms of what I said. But I will say that I'm not going to respond with the same ad hominem attacks. Yes. I don't think it helps further discussion. And if that was me that was caught on a video saying that about colleagues that I work with, I would be embarrassed. So I think that the video speaks more to Ben's character than it speaks to mine.
Has he texted you to apologize or explain or anything?
No, nothing. I haven't heard a single word. It just was sort of something that he said. And you know what? Ben and I have many disagreements, so I don't think that that's particularly something that's interesting. We disagreed on the COVID vaccine. We disagree on Ukraine and Russia. He has taken virtually every stance that has been the opposite of mine on every issue over the last 5 years. So I don't think that that's particularly remarkable.
Vaccine. Really, I didn't remember that.
Yeah, he was pro the COVID vaccine. I was anti the vaccine. We were all idiots for not getting the vaccine. So that's totally fine. I am totally open to people having a difference in opinion.
Right.
I would hope that amongst colleagues that it would always be civil disagreement, and I would never in a private event stand on a table and talk badly about Ben.
It's a little weird. So he was on the left on those three biggest issues of our time, is what you're saying?
He has converted his opinions. He's accepted responsibility. He said I was wrong.
I love how Tucker Carlson is playing dumb, like he doesn't know that he's throwing Ben Shapiro under the So Candace, are you saying that Ben Shapiro agreed with the left on the biggest issues of our time? Say it isn't so, Candace.
About the vaccine.
Oh, good.
He is, obviously pro pharma. His mom's a doctor, and I say to people, I'm very aware of my perspectives on big pharma,
Yes.
and I talk about it on my show openly. And I think that that's a tremendous credit to the Daily Wire that they allow a difference of opinions. But as I said, hope that it would remain respectful
Yep.
and that you wouldn't throw your colleagues under a bus, so to speak, in a private setting.
I think that's fair. And just for clarity, because I really don't know, is he your boss? Is he?
I think there's a lot of misunderstanding about Ben's involvement. He's not the CEO of the Daily Wire. He
Yes.
is not making the day decisions at the Daily Wire. And I do want to make it very clear, because people are like, how could you possibly save Daily Wire after this? I have a very good relationship with the co-CEOs of the Daily Wire. Especially right now, the acting CEO is Caleb Robinson. He's a wonderful person. He's worked very hard to be where he's at. We have a lot in common that we connect on. And so people don't get to see that, which is unfortunate. Ben lives in Florida. He's not a part of the day-to-day movement of the Daily Wire.
I didn't know Ben lived in Florida.
The hosts have their shows situated in Nashville. So we see each other every day. We talk. There's great camaraderie. Yes. And there's actually more agreement. There's actually a lot of people that are, as I describe myself, just pro-America first. And I think I've been that way consistently throughout my political career. Whether people agree with it or not in different moments is up for debate. But I don't want that video to become a reflection of how the Daily Wire works and the Daily Wire operates, because I have had a very good experience with the CEOs, and love Michael Knowles, love Matt Walsh, Andrew Klavan. We all get along really great.
Well, it certainly speaks well of the Daily Wire then. So it's not, I mean, a clip like that on the internet, oh, Candace Owens is out or something. That's not, doesn't sound like that's what it means.
Yeah, no, it's a small group of people. We see each other every day.
Right.
Brett Cooper is another one who just joined about 2 years ago. She's great. She's up and coming. And there's a lot of stuff that we're working on. And that's why I think this video is even more unfortunate, because people see him as a figurehead, rightfully so, of the Daily Wire. And it allows people to, speak energy into the Daily Wire that isn't necessarily there, because he's not there on a day-to-day basis.
Okay, that's very interesting. So if we could take 3 steps back and give us the context for this debate, how are you on different sides of it? I haven't heard you endorsing Hamas. Like, you're not. No.
Well, I have not endorsed Hamas in any way, and yet people have interpreted things that I say, or actually rather things that I don't say. It's becoming very much reminiscent.
See, this strategy of the right of painting everyone who questions the actions of the Israeli government as being pro-Hamas, Jew haters, anti-Semites, this strategy of the conservative right is going to backfire completely. I promise you, because people are getting sick of it. And I think that Ben Shapiro is really going to bring this issue to a head, and people are going to be like, yo, Ben, you're running around calling every single person a Jew hater. Dave Rubin, you're running around calling every single person a Jew hater who disagrees with you, but you're telling Candace Owens to quit her job over quoting the Bible, bro. Like Ben Shapiro, again, because he couldn't regulate his own emotions, Ben Shapiro couldn't regulate his own feelings. He has brought this issue to a head of like, they've been running around for weeks calling everyone who disagrees with them pro-Hamas, which is not the truth. There are college students that are pro-Hamas, but there are also people who have a lot of issues with what Israel is doing in Gaza that are not supportive of Hamas. They're calling everyone Jew haters. They're calling everyone anti-Semites. They're Dave Rubin calling around trying to get people fired from their jobs for taking positions he doesn't like. They're going off like Dave Rubin has never tweeted as much in his life as he is about Israel right now. And I know that because he blocked me on Twitter after I definitely didn't tell Nick Fuentes that Dave Rubin was trying to get people fired from their jobs, which Nick Fuentes then repeated on his show. Absolutely didn't come from me. And then I maybe clipped Nick Fuentes saying that on his show. And then Dave Rubin got really pissed off at me. And he was like, why didn't you call me, Carlin? And I said, Dave, I haven't spoken to you in 2 fucking years. And then he blocked me on Twitter. So I actually hadn't been looking at Dave Rubin's Twitter at all because I didn't honestly really care. I didn't think he was that interesting. I didn't think his positions were that interesting. But I started looking at it after he blocked me on Twitter, and every goddamn thing is about Israel. Everything. I'm like, bro, you never cared about the left as much as you care about Israel. How sad. Anyway, that's my point though, is like, people are getting sick of this shit. Like, I think that people are getting sick of being called names every time they express a political position. And now to see it coming from conservative influencers and the right is like, that's going to be a lot. And especially for Christians, because remember, Christians also have like a persecution fetish. They get off on it. They think the more they're persecuted, the closer to God they are. And so like for Christians to now look at Ben Shapiro and be like, We're being persecuted by people. I thought that Israel was our greatest ally, Ben. Why are you telling Candace Owens that she needs to quit her job because she quoted the Bible, Ben? Like, are you persecuting us, Ben? Do you hate Christians, Ben? Like, this is the rabbit hole that conservative Christians are going to go down, and Ben Shapiro should have damn well knew it before he tweeted what he did.
To me, and why I have used my platform to say this, of Black Lives Matter, where if you don't say anything, they say your silence is violence. If you say something and it's even handed and it's nuanced, which is to say, you know, during the times of Black Lives Matter, you might say, I don't support police brutality. Who does? I don't support racism. Who does? But also, I think that police are a crucial part of every city. We need to have policing in cities, so these calls to defund the police are immoral and wrong and are going to lead to more Black deaths. People didn't want that nuance. When Black Lives, following George Floyd, there was no nuance. You had to explicitly say defund the police. You had to post a Black square. If you didn't post a Black square on Instagram, by the way, specifically on the platform of Instagram, and you maybe were busy that day, maybe you were in another country, you know, maybe you just didn't log on to Instagram, you were accused of being a racist. I'm seeing a lot of that behavior right now when it comes to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, a conflict that I have seen every single person, including myself, condemn what happened on October 7th. Because who wouldn't condemn terrorism? It's obvious who would not condemn innocent Israelis dying. But if you then say that it is also sad when an innocent Palestinian child dies, suddenly
you're a Jew-hating anti-Semite.
You need to say, even when you're talking about how sad it is that a child dies, you need to button that statement by saying, but that child was a human shield. That's not going to be my response. First off, as a mother.
By the way, just so people understand this, there's no actual evidence that Hamas is really using these people as human shields. That's an Israeli propaganda talking point. And I know this because I really looked into this. I really tried to find primary source evidence, because I'm not taking the word of the Israeli government on this one. I'm sorry. I don't like the Israeli government has lied way too much. And by the way, I'm a fucking anarchist. I don't trust anything the government says anyway. But like, add on top of that all of the lies that have come out of Israel. I'm like, nah, bro, that doesn't make sense. You're bombing schools and saying it's because Hamas was using them as human shields. You're bombing hospitals. Excuse me, you're bombing hospitals and saying that's because Hamas was using them as human shields. You're bombing refugee camps and saying it's because Hamas was using them as human shields. There is no evidence of this. What the Israeli government is literally saying is that Hamas is in every single part of Gaza at all times, and that gives us free license to bomb as many heavily populated civilian areas as we can, because Hamas is using every single person in Gaza as a human shield at all times. There's no evidence to support it, guys. There's really not. And they can make all the excuses they want. They can do all the propaganda they want. But I have asked around. I've said, is there any primary source evidence to support this? And the only evidence that I'm ever given is statements by the Israeli government. Not good enough. Not good enough when you're talking about killing, what is it up to now? 11,000 Palestinians, half of whom are children. Like, take it like the Israeli government saying, pinky swear, trust me, bro. Not good enough.
Mother, that's not going to be my response as somebody who is about to give birth. When I see these images of children involved on both sides of the conflict, I've pointed to the people that are mocking dead Israeli children and said that they are horrific. I am even keel on this matter, and yet people think that you need to be extreme. So people that have become more radical and extreme are perceiving a moderate stance as not enough. And
because I was about to say, you don't, people can disagree with you or agree with you or whatever, but you certainly don't seem radical on this topic.
I'm definitively not radical. My stance has not changed in terms of whether or not America should be involved in this conflict. Whether we were talking about Afghanistan, my comments have been clear. They've been documented for years. Whether we are talking about Ukraine and Russia, my comments have been clear and they have been documented. I mean, you can go back to me even talking about NATO expansion before things erupted between Russia and Ukraine, and having a meaningful discussion about how much expansion is too much expansion. How would we feel if we had troops on our border? These are things that should be allowed in an academic discussion. You should be able to sit on stage and should be able to debate these ideas without using ad hominem attacks to say that you're a pro-Putin puppet or you're pro-terrorism. Even in the aftermath of 9/11, something that we all remember as part of my childhood. I think I was in 7th grade at the time, and I'm born in the New York City area, so this was a very big deal. if a person the day after 9/11 wanted to debate the Patriot Act, it's not fair to call them terrorist sympathizers.
No.
Actually, they would have been proven right in the long run. That act, we gave up a lot of our freedom.
That's exactly what happened, though. Like, I'm old enough to remember when I was protesting the war in Iraq after 9/11 on the Boston Common in college. That's exactly what happened. If you said we should not be going to war in Iraq, you had conservatives spitting on you. You had conservatives saying you're either with us or you're against us. You had conservatives calling you a traitor because you didn't want to go to war in Iraq. What Candace is saying did actually happen. I don't know how many other people experienced this or like were old enough to experience it or were at the events where you experienced it, but I was literally spit on by conservatives as they screamed, "You're either with us or against us," because I went to an anti-war rally on the Boston Common in college.
And I think there was only one congressman, a Republican, that was against the Patriot Act at that time. So it's important, actually, when you start making decisions in a highly emotional time, that people sit down and have these academic debates. And there are people that are saying, no, it doesn't matter because people are dead, that you need to just choose a side, and that needs to be it. It needs to become tribal.
There's also, I can't help but notice that your views reflect mine, I would say pretty much. I'm an American. I was horrified by what happened on October 7th. I think it was pretty strange. I don't really understand how it happened, but innocents died, and that's awful. And I hated watching it. And I feel so sorry for the Israelis who were killed. However, there's an emotional response that is disproportionate, I think, on the part of some commentators. I mean, our country's being invaded right now by millions of young men whose identities we don't know, who probably don't even like America, and they're now living here. Over 100,000 Americans die every year of fentanyl. I've known a couple. Those are real tragedies. I've never seen anything like the emotion from any commentator around those tragedies as I'm watching about a foreign tragedy. I think that's odd.
I'm going to say this too. I agree with everything Tucker just said. And I'm going to put like one more on it, in that, like, my husband is from Ukraine. It's not that he's of Ukrainian descent. My husband is from Ukraine. My husband's brother is in the Ukrainian army right now, currently. Has been since the start of this whole thing. And I, from the very beginning of the Ukraine thing, said the United States should not be involved. We should not be involved. We should not be sending foreign aid. I have been very consistent, even though my husband's family's house has literally had damage done to it because Russia was shelling their city at the beginning of the conflict. Like, and so I have actual skin in the game. My husband has actual skin in the game. I have seen the nights that my husband has stayed up worrying about his brother. I've seen the impact of that. Has anyone ever reached out to me from like one of these communities to say, Carlin, how is your family in Ukraine? And it's not as though they don't know, right? Like, these are, I mean, like, even anyone that's like running around like complaining about Israel now, Carlin, how is your family in Ukraine? No one has ever done that. It's not like Dave Rubin ever did that. Dave Rubin has my fucking phone number. Dave Rubin could have called me if he'd wanted to. How's your family in Ukraine? Never fucking did that. But yet, people like Dave Rubin expect me to toss aside every single anti-war belief that I have, an anti-intervention belief that I have, to stomp for the United States giving billions of dollars to Israel because it's his favorite thing, and he's going to call around trying to get people fired if they don't agree with him. And if I post the truth, or, you know, definitely not leak that truth to Nick Fuentes to talk about on his show, if I say that, like, that Dave Rubin is doing that, I'm now all of a sudden the bad guy, Jew hater, anti-Semite. Where the fuck were you? Where the fuck were you when my literal brother-in-law went to war? And so it's like these people who are like, we have to do everything we have, like these people who have such passion over Israel. I'm like, yo, some of us managed to control our shit. Some of us kept our positions consistent across conflicts, regardless of the personal connection to that conflict. And if you're a commentator on the internet with millions of fucking followers, not that I have that, but a lot of these people do. If you're a commentator on the internet with millions of followers and you can't control your own emotions enough to get a consistent position, those aren't people that deserve our respect. Those aren't people who deserve our admiration. Those aren't people who deserve our approval. Those certainly aren't people who deserve our money. They're showing that their feelings are always going to get in the way. And I find it deeply disturbing the amount of passion. These people have put more passion into defending Israel than they ever did against defeating the far left in this country, which I've been screaming about for effing years.
I think what tends to happen is, of course, we all have elements of selfishness within us, and so when it particularly pertains to an issue that impacts you, I was strongly speaking out against Black Lives Matter as an organization very early on as a conservative because I understood what the implications were going to be of defunding the police.
Right.
It was an issue that was important to me. I created an entire documentary to talk about this issue.
Yes.
And I held on for a long time, and people began to see that actually I was telling the truth. And now we have more death in inner city communities than we had before.
Yes.
These riots and these George Floyd protests calling for defunding of the police. And I think in terms of this, that's what's also happened is that people that are pro-Israel are pro-Israel, a lot of them, because they have family members in Israel.
I get it.
They have homes in.
I miss Victor. How's he doing? Victor's doing just fine. Thank you for asking, Nick. Thank you for the super chat. Victor is about to go grocery shopping, which is very exciting because I haven't eaten yet today. So Victor going to buy groceries is pretty great. It's funny, like the Groypers are. I know this is like side note. I'm taking a point of personal privilege. Like the Groypers are always like, does Carlin ever stop eating? Carlin's so fat. Carlin can't control her calorie intake. And then I'm like, bro, like I barely even eat. Most days I eat once. God. Wait till you get older, Groypers. The struggle is real. That's all I'm saying.
Israel. And so they feel very attached to this issue. And, you know, I was very happy to host somebody who was pro-Israel. He's a pro-Israel comedian on my show the other day. And I explained this to him. I said, you know, you are demanding that we have this same response that you are having about what people are saying on college campuses. The rhetoric on college campuses hasn't changed. Did you not remember what they were saying? What professors were saying?
Exactly.
The anti-white explicit racism that was happening, and not even just allowed in terms of student protests.
Well, that's
was
not
written into the curriculum at these universities for years.
As a reminder, Candace Owens is one of the conservative commentators that doesn't know what the fuck she's talking about when it comes to the left and what they're actually teaching. As a reminder, whiteness is not about skin color. Whiteness is about capitalism. Anyone who says that whiteness is about skin color doesn't know what they're talking about. They don't understand the left. They don't understand what the left is doing. If you have questions about that, I will be more than happy to answer them. You can come to my Socialism Saturday streams. You can check it out on my Substack. I'm not going to go into great detail on it right now because that's not the point of this stream. I've done thousands of hours of content about this. But what you need to know is that anyone who says that whiteness is about skin color doesn't know what the F they're talking about. They do not understand what's going on. And it's really too bad because they're misinforming a lot of people. Candace Owens is one of those people who is grossly misinformed and doesn't know what the fuck she's talking about.
People were learning this actively in school, that whiteness was associated with wrongness. You had college professors that were writing about this need there need to be less white people in America. You can find these articles. They exist online.
They're everywhere.
They're
and
everywhere.
that seems genocidal. I mean, if you're
it
saying
is genocidal.
Like by definition, if you're saying being a certain
what that
ethnicity
is,
or
actually.
race is itself a sin and we need less of you.
That's not what they're saying.
That is the definition, is it not?
Right.
Not what they're saying.
To breed out white people. It was unbelievable what I was seeing, and I was impacted by it because I'm in a biracial relationship and I have biracial children. So you are telling me that my children are going to have to decide between whether or not they are white oppressors or they are Black victims. It doesn't stand for me. So I was attached to this issue, and it's something that I fought for hard on college campuses. And there was no support. There was nobody talking about, well, this is what needs to go. These kids need to go onto blacklists. And by the way, if they did speak that way, I would have disagreed with it because I am pro 1A. I believe in the First Amendment. I believe that kids, by the way, are naturally stupid. In case people forget, I started on the left, right?
Yeah.
So if you found me in college, you would have found a pro-life person who believed, in some racist principles, fundamental racism in America, because that was what I was being taught systematically in the classroom. And then I got to grow up and change my mind. And I don't think people have thought past their immediate emotions to consider what's going to happen when you put these kids on blacklists. You think that's going to bring them over to the pro-Israel side when they get older? Most of these kids, especially when you're talking about the cream of the crop at these.
And my big issue with the whole blacklisting thing is, listen, man, people should be able to hire whoever they want, like whatever. I'm on board with that. I also think there's something to be said about the fact that like no one should want to work in an organization where they're not wanted. But what I will say is that it really pisses me off that all of a sudden all these big Jewish donors discovered that the products of the education that they were funding at colleges and universities, these big Jewish donors had been cutting these universities fat checks for years and years and years and years and years. These big Jewish donors were literally funding everything that people like me have been screaming about for years. They funded the indoctrination of these kids. And then when the indoctrination that they didn't care about, that they didn't pay attention to, that they literally helped to happen, when the indoctrination of the kids bears its fruit in the most predictable possible way, then all of a sudden they're like, oh, this has gone a step too far now because the kids that we very literally funded don't support Israel. It was never, they never cared about the far left indoctrination. They're not putting these kids on blacklists because these kids are indoctrinated into a far left political ideology. They're putting these kids on blacklists because they don't support Israel, which is an extremely predictable outcome of the education that they themselves funded, because to these kids, Jews mean capitalism. Israel means capitalism. That's what they learned in school, which Candace Owens doesn't understand. Tucker Carlson doesn't understand it either. But this is what really pisses me off about the blacklists. It's that, you know, and I wrote about this on the nickandI.substack.com. I wrote about it in the second article, like, who's the real enemy? Who really deserves to be canceled? Do the students protesting in favor of Hamas because they got sucked into a far left cult in school deserve to be canceled? I think those students are victims of the ideology that was funded by the donors. Does Nick Fuentes deserve to get canceled for pointing all this out? Or maybe we should be canceling the people who funded the indoctrination in the goddamn first place, not listening to anyone when we've been screaming about what they were funding in the first place. Maybe the people who actually funded and supported this stuff and didn't care about it at all until Israel was involved, maybe they should be the ones getting canceled. Just saying. Hang on, just looking in the chat. Nancy, you're demanding that I answer some sort of question for you. I don't see the question that you're asking in the chat. So I guess if you want me to answer a question, send me in a super chat. I don't see what you're asking.
Ivy League universities already have access to money and wealth and connections. And so maybe debating the issues and explaining to them why it was wrong to sign this specific letter, which didn't call for explicit violence against the Israelis, but it actually was very poorly timed, and it blamed them for what happened,
Yes.
which would have been horrific. Imagine after 9/11, somebody issues a letter on college campus that says, oh, well, sorry about the fire department.
I agree.
Yeah,
I get why donors are mad.
Imagine,
and by the way, I support donors giving money to things they agree with.
Yes, I support that.
I strongly do.
Yep.
The part that, and so I had no problem with that at all.
Same.
You don't like it, don't pay for it. Good for you. However, then I thought, well, wait a second. If the biggest donors at, say, Harvard have decided, well, we're going to shut it down now, where were you the last 10 years?
Exactly.
Genocide. You were allowing this. And then I found myself really hating those people.
But Tucker Carlson being pissed off because they said mean things about white people. That's not what they were funding. That's not what it is. What those donors actually funded is so much more insidious than, like, the left doesn't like white people, which isn't even the truth. The left, like, this is all being driven by white people. Conservatives are so fucking stupid. I swear to God. What they actually funded is way worse than Tucker Carlson understands and that Candace Owens understands.
Actually, that you're okay with that? On what grounds were you okay with that?
And this is what I've been trying to explain to the pro-Israel lobby, that what you are seeing as lack of support is people that are asking the question is, where were you as we have endured all of this?
You were paying for it, actually.
Right.
You were paying for it.
You were paying for it.
Because
and
you were
were
calling
okay with
my
it.
children immoral for their skin color. You paid for that.
It's not what
And
they were doing.
Why shouldn't I be mad at you?
That's
I
not
don't
what they were
understand.
doing.
And so that is, obviously you have a ton of white people that are asking this question, and they're now being called anti-Semitic. And I think that that's wrong. I think these are meaningful questions that deserve to be answered. Why was this sort of verbiage allowed into the curriculum? I mean, could you imagine if in the curriculum it said that every Jewish person born is a terrorist? This is systematically what has been said.
All right. So Nancy has put her question in again, not in a super chat, but I'm going to answer it anyway. Number one, Nancy, I'm giving you this feedback now, and I expect that it be followed. I do not allow the use of the term anti-white on this channel. I understand that we're watching a video in which they're saying it. I can't control what they say in the video, but I do not allow the use of the term anti-white on this channel because it is a term that comes from the most toxic people on the right who are legitimate white identitarians. I don't want it anywhere near me. None of this is about skin color anyway. And what the millions of foreigners flooding the border is about destabilizing the system. That's what it's about. It's not about skin color at all. The left does not care about skin color. They never talk about skin color. They never plan action against white people. They never say things like, we're going to bring a whole bunch of brown people over the border to get rid of all these white people. That doesn't happen. Why you are confused is because, oh, sorry, Rottweiler, I'll get in a second. Nancy, why you are confused is because the left uses coded language in which the term whiteness means capitalism. Every time they use the term white, they mean capitalism. Anti-racism means anti-capitalism. Fascism means capitalism. Colonization means capitalism. Like, all of these terms are coded language for capitalism. The reason that they're allowing that much immigration to come into the country has nothing to do with skin color. It has to do with fundamentally destabilizing the system. That's what it is. Nope. Wrong. Logan is stupid. Wrong. Logan, I'm not going to allow this bullshit. This is not what they do. You do not, God damn it. This is going to end up with a whole thing where all these fucking stupid fucking conservatives who have listened to stupid fucking conservatives who have misinformed them are going to come and be like, they hate white people. White people are poor victims of the world. They hate us. We're just victims. You're not fucking victims because you're white, Logan. You are not a victim because you are white. They don't care that you're white. Anyone who engages with my content with any sort of regularity has heard them say this on multiple occasions. Whiteness is not about your skin color, bro. Whiteness is about capitalism. God damn it. Here we go. I have dozens and dozens and dozens, if not hundreds of clips at this point, where they are literally saying whiteness is capitalism. Nancy, if you want to know what the end game is, I suggest you head over to my Substack, carlin.substack.com, where I explicitly wrote about this very recently, and you can read for yourself. Thank you. Any further questions from you will be a super chat. Whiteness is capitalism. Y'all in the chat who are convinced otherwise are speaking a completely different language. This never had anything to do with skin color and only has to do with capitalism. Everyone who watches my content on a regular basis knows this. You're absolutely not being attacked based on your skin color. You're being attacked because you're a capitalist. No, Logan, no. It's you who's conflated the useful idiots with the puppet masters. That's you, bro. You've listened to a whole bunch of useful fucking idiots, and you believe the useful idiots are the puppet masters. You don't know who the real puppet masters are. I bet you have no fucking idea. That's you, bro. You're describing yourself. Look in the mirror. Let's see. How many other stupid people do I have in my chat right now? Oh, wow. Logan, you think we're talking about leftists? Do Logan, do you understand? No, this is a waste of my time. Logan, you can either shut the fuck up and learn something, or you can get the fuck off of my channel. Because listen, bro, if you don't even understand the audience that we're talking about, we're not talking about liberals, Logan. We're also not talking about leftists. That's not who we're talking about right now. So you can either shut your mouth and open your ears and learn something, or you can GTFO. Because I don't welcome stupid people here who are going to shill nonsense in my chat. And right now, you're looking pretty fucking stupid to a lot of the people who've been here for a really long time who know every single thing that I'm saying right now. So no more nonsense from you, buddy. Let's see. Sorry, I missed this super chat earlier, Rockweiler. He says, and of course, to the surprise of literally no one, the Daily Wire is dropping DeSantis in favor of Nikki Newcomb and Krispy Kreme. Of course they are. Of course they are. Thank you, Rottweiler. Appreciate it. And B, Shapiro went woke and is going to go broke. I don't think Ben Shapiro is going to go broke. I don't think he's going to go broke at all. I think Ben Shapiro has way too much money and way too many dumb conservative followers that are following along. Lone Wolf, you're not stupid at all. You're not stupid at all. You haven't been here that long. You've already learned a lot. I just have extremely little patience for like people shilling conservative talking points who are unwilling to actually listen and learn what's actually going on. You know, it's not Logan's fault that he's been misinformed by his conservative influencers. It's not Logan's fault that he doesn't know what he's talking about, because people like Candace Owens and Tucker Carlson and everyone at the Daily Wire have all lied to him about what's going on. So it's technically not really his fault, but man, these stubborn conservatives who refuse to shut up and listen just blow my mind every single time.
I would be totally opposed to that.
You're learning this, not even just, by the way, at the college campus level, in high schools. I've covered this on my show at high schools, that they are now allowing children to stand up in an auditorium during, not Black Lives Matter week, during, what is February? Whole month of February, African American month. I'm totally Black History Month.
Black History.
I was like totally blanking. I'm like, what is?
Wait, has Candace Owens has Candace Owens literally just understood that what's going on in colleges and universities is bleeding into K through 12 schools? Holy shit, Candace. Candace Owens is like, Tucker, they're not just talking about these ideas in college, they're doing it in high school too. Really, Candace? Really? Candace, I'm going to really blow your mind. They start teaching this shit in kindergarten, Candace. They start teaching this shit in kindergarten. Why don't you know that, Candace? Why doesn't Tucker Carlson know that? Why doesn't every conservative influencer who talks about this stuff all the time and makes millions of dollars off of this stuff, why don't any of them know that in every single school district in the country, in every single one, including in red states, including in rural areas, every single one of these school districts start teaching this stuff in kindergarten? Oh my God. Yeah. We knew all of this 2 years ago, Candace. Congratulations. You're where all of us were 2 fucking years ago. Nancy, as I have already told you, I literally wrote about this on my Substack. Go to my Substack, be an adult, go to my Substack, find the article that I wrote last week, literally explaining this. It is all there for you. Go forth and conquer. God damn it.
What is February? Black History Month. They were allowing at this very elite school $50,000 per month to attend the school, per year to attend the school, for these children to stand up on a stage and yell in an auditorium. Black kids were allowed to be on the stage. White kids were sitting down at this elite school, and they said, "You don't know what we lived through. You don't understand how your whiteness impacts me." This is going on in New York City right now. That is explicit anti-white racism that is happening. And I covered it on my show extensively. Nobody cared. There was no bus calling these kids
No.
anything wrong. And
Oh, Candace, you're saying that no one cares about stuff about what's going on in schools? Gee, I didn't know that. When I was doing live investigation streams on the internet where I was explicitly showing what was going on in the schools and no one cared, and they were some of the lowest viewed content on my channel, and I tried to tell everyone what was going on in the schools and no one listened. Gee, Candace is shut. I just don't know why. I'm amazed. I've literally been covering this stuff for years. I've literally taught people how to find this stuff. Like, God damn it.
And so trying to explain that of why people maybe are not reacting with the amount of vigor that you would like to see is now being interpreted as anti-Semitism. So everyone's being called anti-Semitism.
It's a little bit like watching the city of San Francisco in the week before Xi Jinping shows up become totally clean, sparkling clean. There are no junkies.
It is a
or
little
rapists
like
on
that.
the
I
street.
agree with that, Tucker.
And you feel like asking the authorities, well, wait, you had the power to do this, but you didn't?
Yep.
You had the power to stop racism at Harvard, but you didn't?
Yep.
Why are you not a criminal, actually, for allowing that? I don't have you asked anybody this? Like, direct? Have you asked a donor this? I've been trying to get one on the show. I support what you're doing. It's great. Don't pay for what you don't like. But you did like the white genocide stuff. You're kind of okay with that, huh?
Right. And I've even asked, did you use your platform to speak out against it? Because I've been speaking out against this for years. And now you're demanding that I use my platform to focus on a conflict that's overseas.
Yes. It is a shame that there hasn't been someone on YouTube perhaps covering the fact that the schools are creating little Marxists for literally years. It is a shame that no one has ever broken down the curriculum or infiltrated. You know what's a real shame, Nathaniel? It is a shame that no one has ever infiltrated the teacher training programs to show you exactly what they're training teachers to do. It is a shame that no one has ever put this curriculum on the internet. It is a shame that no one has gone undercover at their conferences. You know, Dave Rubin a couple weeks ago was like, I just don't know when the good guys are going to fight back. I just don't know when the good guys are going to do anything. And I was like, oh, really, Dave? Because you've had my phone number for fucking years, bro. Where the fuck were you? But I'm supposed to ask your permission before I tell Nick Fuentes that you're calling people demanding they be fired for not agreeing with you. It is just a shame that no one on the internet is doing this stuff. It is a shame. It is a shame that I definitely didn't do 4 different streams in the past 3 days in which I brought people into woke left training to show them exactly what was going on. It is a shame that no one ever posts massive articles and investigations about autistic sex education and pointing out that the state of Michigan is training teachers how to groom students and pointing out the teachers in the Burlington, Vermont school district are still grooming kids live on the internet and pointing out all of these things. Queer theology, that's another one, taking over the church. It is a fucking shame that no one on the internet is doing this.
Yeah. And the answer I tend to get is no. I didn't talk about what was happening. I didn't realize it was happening. So it actually is quite a selfish viewpoint, which we all have. We're all guilty of.
Oh,
I get it. We write ourselves into the storyline. How is this going to impact me? And that is, I think, is why it feels existential for other people and not existential for people that have been dealing with this for the last decade.
I know, but it's a pretty simple principle that, existed at 54, I can tell you, in this country for a long time, certainly from, say, the Civil Rights Act until, 15 years ago. You're not allowed to attack people on the basis of their race in public. Everybody has bigoted views, probably, or thinks their group is best or whatever. It's pretty normal. But you're not allowed to say, I don't like you because of your race. Like, you're not allowed to do that. Why can't we just return to that standard? I'm missing it.
Right. And this has been a dialogue that I think some of us have been having for years. Some people are just now jumping into this dialogue.
You've been pretending to have it for years, Candace. Pretending to have it.
I'm not going to become a radical and rise to that level of emotion. I think my takes have been very moderate. Even people that are reading into things that I haven't said are unable to explain to me why what I'm saying is not okay. They can't point to a specific sentence that I said that was wrong. It's more about how they're reading into.
Bro, she has no fucking idea. She has no fucking idea. If Candace Owens is going on Tucker Carlson and saying, Tucker, did you know that they're teaching this in high school? Did you know they're teaching it in high school? She has no fucking idea what's going on. Please don't cover for this bitch. People like this, I'm sorry, people like this that cover for conservative fucking influencers who don't keep them properly informed about what's going on, you guys are the fucking problem. Candace Owens is using people like you to make money and not telling you the truth at the same time. And when it's pointed out to you unequivocally, in no uncertain terms, that she has no fucking idea what she's talking about, you guys are the ones that defend her. No, she knows what she's talking about. No, she fucking doesn't. If she knew what she was talking about, she wouldn't have said, "I can't." Tucker, did you know that they're teaching this in high school? They're not just teaching it in high school. They're teaching it in middle school. They're teaching it in elementary school. They are teaching it in every single class these students take. They are teaching it in the teacher training programs. They're teaching it in the teacher professional development programs. They are teaching it all the time. And Candace has no idea what they're teaching, and Tucker Carlson has no idea what they're teaching, because people like you fucking enable them to do it. Martin, how did the schools create little Marxists? Stay tuned into this channel to find out. Oh yeah, I've only been explaining this and breaking it down for 2 goddamn years. But conservatives on the internet are way more interested in smearing me and lying about me and calling me insane and spreading all these rumors and doxing my friends and calling my husband a pedophile and all this stuff. They're way more interested in that than they are the truth.
To the sentence, which if it's how you are reading into it, that is your emotion. And as I said, my views have not shifted since I got into the political sphere. I have always been pro the First Amendment. I have always been pro staying out of foreign conflicts. And I'm sorry if that feels to you like a personal attack. There's this wonderful Thomas Sowell quote where he says that people that are used to special treatment, when you start to treat them the same, feel like they're being discriminated against. He says it much more eloquently. He's Thomas Sowell, Dr. Thomas Sowell, but that's the gist of it. And I think that what we're seeing right now is things that are being perceived as a discrimination, and it's not discrimination. I'm just treating you the same as everyone has been treated. And throughout at least my dialogue and the things and monologues throughout the last 6 or 7 years.
Yes.
And I do also want to say
Martin,
that I find
will.
it particularly despicable, as I have said on my platform, when people who are pro-Israel are now being called anti-Semites for asking meaningful questions. I talked about Charlie Kirk. Charlie Kirk, following the attacks on October 7th, turned to the Israeli government and said, how did this happen? You know, he talked about Israel being the size of New Jersey. He's been there many times. He funds thousands of students to go there and to visit. He's honestly radically pro-Israel, I would almost say. It's probably a fair thing to say about Charlie Kirk. Yeah. And he was asking these questions with the intent of, if these were your children and they were involved in this horrific attack, wouldn't you want to know these answers? He's like, you can't move 5 feet without seeing an IDF soldier. I've been to Israel, and that is a fact.
I have too, a number of times, and I admire their border barriers. And I always have. I always think, I wish we had that. So it's a totally fair question.
Totally fair question that he asked, and it got interpreted, and then there were suddenly these attacks asking the question of whether Turning Point was seeping with anti-Semitism, and how unfair to, after all the work that he has done to support your cause, turn your back on him and to call him an anti-Semite because you don't like a question that he asked that actually was being asked from the heart and with a little bit of rage toward this even being allowed to happen. We always have to hold our governments accountable in how they are responding.
And plenty of Israelis, some of whom I know, are asking that question, and why wouldn't they? So you said a minute ago that one of your concerns about having a news story or a public conversation defined by emotion is that it allows the people in charge to change our lives and to take away our civil liberties because we're so distracted by the rage that we feel or the sympathy that we feel. I mean, these are some good feelings too, but we can be manipulated during moments like this. Here, case in point, here's a woman who is.
I have a super chat from Nathaniel. Nathaniel, just thanking you for all you do. Let the conservatives smear you. My support is here completely because at least here I hear the truth. Thank you, Nathaniel, for that. And listen, man, if I'm yelling at you and you're new to this or you're like curious about and you have never heard that like this is not about skin color at all, it's about capitalism, I can understand why it might be a little bit confusing to you that I'm yelling that this is not about skin color, that this is about capitalism. But what people really need to understand is this has been every single day of my life for 3 goddamn years, and I'm just getting a little annoyed by it, and I'm getting tired. And it's like, you know, I'm getting tired of doing everything I can in my power, given the time that I have, given the constraints that I have, to be able to demonstrate to people with video from real socialists what's going on, them saying it in their own words. You don't have to take my word for it. You don't have to take my word for it. Like, I show you what's happening. I break it down. I show you the documents. I do every single thing that I can. And just like, it's so frustrating that people don't listen. And the reason they don't listen is because they're influencers who should be doing their job of keeping their audience informed have no fucking idea what they're talking about. And they just want to play this race card over and over and over and over and over again when it is not about white people. It's not about white skin color. That's not what it's about at all. And anyone who has ever actually listened to the left knows that. It is so clear. It's clear as day. So I know that you're being sarcastic when you say like let them. I know that. Like don't worry about that, but it's just so frustrating. It really is.
Was running for president, the former governor of South Carolina, Nikki Haley, explaining that because of these attacks on October 7th, the rest of us need to register with the government in order to express our opinions online. There she is.
Thank you, Lone
When I get
Wolf.
into office, the first thing we have to do, social media accounts, social media companies, they have to show America their algorithms. Let us see why they're pushing what they're pushing. The second thing is every person on social media should be verified by their name. That's, first of all, it's a national security threat. When you do that, all of a sudden people have to stand by what they say, and it gets rid of the Russian bots, the Iranian bots, and the Chinese bots. And then you're going to get some civility when people know their name is next to what they say.
So Nikki Haley.
That's like one of the stupid. I thought about covering this on this at some point, but I just didn't. That's one of the stupidest things that Nikki Haley has ever said in her life. Now, listen, I am the first to say that I think that people who only operate from an anonymous account are cowards. I do. I'm sorry. I think they're cowards. I think we're at a time when people need to put on their big boy and girl pants and stand up and say, this is who I am and this is what I stand for. And if you're not willing to do that, then you're a coward. I don't shy away from saying things with my real name. I mean, it wasn't exactly my intention to get thrust into this space with my real name. This was not part of my life plan. But every single thing I say with my real name. And for better or worse, man, for better or worse. And I think that the world would be a lot better off if people put on their big boy and girl pants and said, this is who I am and this is what I stand for. But that's not to say there's not value in having anonymity or having the freedom to have privacy. Like having my real name on the internet has fucked up my life in a lot of ways that I never quite anticipated that it would. And so to take that choice away from people, to be able to participate in the discussion, to be able to participate in the town square, I'll call you a coward every single day of the week, but I'll defend your right to be a coward. Maybe someday you'll grow a pair. We can dare to dream, right? Naruchi says, after everything going on in Israel, I'm more of a conspiracy theorist today than I was 2 months ago. I mean, I think... this is my opinion. I think that Israel let it happen. I think that Israel let it happen. Why am I not banned but like Nick? Because I don't talk about this stuff. I mean, I'm shadow banned to high heaven. I'm blacklisted. I am completely blacklisted from most mainstream conservative stuff. I am. They've come after me on multiple occasions. They've written hit pieces on me. They've done all that. I'm completely shadow banned on YouTube. I have been for like 2 years. I know the exact date when it started because the analytics tanked. So I'm not banned like Nick because the Jewish stuff is not something I'm really that interested in, to be honest, so I don't talk about it. I also I don't actually share a lot of Nick's opinions. I don't like the Holocaust denial stuff. I get it. He's a revisionist, whatever. But I don't actually share his opinion on that at all. I also don't shit on gay people and trans people. I think that gay people, trans people should be treated with respect. I respect people's pronouns, stuff like that. So I'm not on any hate list for a reason because I don't actually do content that's hateful. And, I'm a provocateur, but I'm not that much of a provocateur. But to think that I haven't been impacted, I'm completely blacklisted from a lot of stuff because of things I've said. So.
This has been noted online, but it's not her real name, of course. It's a pseudonym.
Oh,
and so
hang on, got another super chat. Sorry, guys. Nathaniel, heading out for the night. Have a good rest of your stream, Carlin and chat. Keep up the good fight. Thank you, Nathaniel. Appreciate it. Oh yeah, I'm very shadow banned on YouTube. I need to break the algorithm again. Every once in a while, I break the YouTube algorithm and I get released for a couple months and I get a boat ton of views and then they slam me right back down again. But the reason that Substack is my main content hub is I get 10 times the views on Substack easily than I get on YouTube every single day. This is my research. But yeah, I'm very shadow banned on YouTube.
She's not even using a real name and telling us that we have to register with the government under our real names in order to give our opinions. That's obviously contrary to the First Amendment. I don't know why the anchor didn't say something about it to her, but sort of nodded, oh, it's accountability. But it's fascism, actually. So, why isn't Nikki Haley getting laughed off the stage?
Well, Nikki Haley is someone that I would describe as radical. She's a radical in this moment, and she's trying to present her opinions as not radical by hiding behind a terrorist attack, and it's not going to age well. So right now in this moment, people are like, this rhetoric is totally fine. You're going to look back in a year, and people are going to say, actually, this was kind of crazy, some of the things that she said. She, in my view, has become increasingly radical every time she even hits the debate stage. I don't even know what country she's running for president in.
Right.
And I think Vivek Ramaswamy called her out accurately. And based on even my own personal experiences with her, which I've documented on my podcast, as somebody who isn't looking to actually win president, doesn't want to become president of the United States. What she's looking to do is to secure certain contracts after she leaves the stage and she loses. And so for her, the motive are relationships that she's going to build and money that she's going to earn, as best evidenced by the fact that when Nikki Haley left her ambassadorship, she was broke, and now she's a millionaire, multimillionaire. And you have to ask how that happens. And Vivek Ramaswamy has had the courage to talk about her contract with Boeing. So her concerns are not about American citizens whatsoever, which is why it's all about sort of kowtowing to the person that I think that she believes, or to people that she believes can write her the biggest checks. That's been my assessment of Nikki Haley from the very beginning. It's still my assessment now. Take it or leave it.
But you've been attacked for saying that. And in fact, she's not hardly alone in that. I mean, a lot of politicians, in fact, almost all politicians respond to their donors. It is, I'm not attacking anybody, but that's just a feature of the business, right? So you say, well, Nikki Haley is responding to her donors, and all of a sudden that's like blood libel or something.
It's foolish, and I won't play the game. Obviously, money is motivating for a lot of politicians in DC that never leave. I mean,
you think?
Seriously, it's common sense, and yet sometimes people try to twist that narrative and pretend that what you're saying cannot be said because in this moment right now she's being pro-Israel. So you can't talk about Nikki Haley and money, even though I spoke about this way before October 7th, from the second she announced.
Carlin, be 100% the way things are looking. Are we toast? Oh yeah, we're totally fucked. We are totally and completely fucked. I wrote about this on the Substack recently. We are totally and completely fucked. We will be a Marxist utopia by 2050. 2050. That's it. I broke down the whole timeline recently on my Substack. There's logic behind it. You can see the logic to it. I'm not going to break it down now. I've talked about it before. I think there's actually a clip of me talking about it from not too long ago. But we're totally and completely fucked. And the reason that we are totally and completely fucked is that people don't care enough to change it. It's not that we couldn't turn it around if we wanted to. We can turn it around. But the problem is that no one cares enough to actually do anything about it, because all influencers on the internet, like Candace Owens cares about, is making money and maintaining their status and getting clicks and likes and a Tucker Carlson interview. That's all these people care about. None of them actually care about solving the problem at all. So it's not as though we couldn't if we wanted to solve the problem. It's just that right now there are not enough people who are willing to understand the problem. These people lie about the problem all the time because they don't understand it. So first, they don't even understand it. Secondly, their solutions are not actually going to get to the heart of what the problem is because they don't understand the problem in the first place. Thirdly, they have misinformed millions of fucking people. Tim Pool going on his show saying, conservatives are winning, conservatives are winning, conservatives are winning. Conservatives are not winning. Conservatives are in a good case scenario, 50 years behind the Democrats. 50. 5-0. And yet Candace Owens and Tucker Carlson and Tim Pool and all these other conservative, Dan Bongino probably doing this, all these conservative influencers are running around, conservatives are winning, we're winning, we're winning. No. When you are repeatedly telling a group of people they're winning, they're winning, they're winning, and that group of people happens to be really fucking lazy on top of that, they're like, well, there's no reason to actually do anything then. If we're all winning and everything's going our way, no reason to do anything. Let's just kick up our feet in our lazy boy and watch the game and drink a couple of beers. And we've already given up on that Bud Light boycott. So now we did Coors Light for a couple weeks. And now we're like, it's like, we're fucked. And the reason we're fucked is because people don't care. So at least we're preparing on my channel. We know what's going to come. Rottweiler, thank you for the super chat. Although I'm staunchly pro-anonymity and privacy online, I think we can reach a middle ground and say the government shouldn't have the power to decide that, much less someone like Hillary 2.0. I agree with that wholeheartedly, Rottweiler. I agree.
That's what she was running.
Yes.
I talked about my personal experience with her and how much she was charging for speaking fees. At the time, it was $300,000 plus a private plane for her to go anywhere to speak after she left her ambassadorship. And she came with a list of prepackaged questions. So her assistant at the time, you were not allowed to ask her one question off script. Any person that hired Nikki Haley at this time will tell you this. So her answers are practiced, her answers are rehearsed. And her answers are rehearsed because she wants to make sure that she doesn't upset the people that are writing the checks. So I said that literally the day she announced she was running for president. And now all of a sudden something that I've been consistent on is being misconstrued as anti-Israel or anti-Semitic because Nikki Haley is being radically pro-Israel.
So it does concern me, however, because in American 2023, the only people defending the First Amendment, the foundational right, the right that precedes all other rights, which is the right to say what you really believe and prove you're not a slave. The right is the only group that defends.
No, they don't.
And
no, the right does not defend that at all, Tucker. That is absolute bullshit. The right does not believe in the First Amendment. They only believe that they don't want to be censored. They don't believe in free speech for people that they disagree with, which we're now seeing play out in public and have been for the last month.
Now they're not. Now they're saying, well, actually, maybe you need to register with the government before
Cheers, he got it. Okay.
So if the left's obviously opposed to the First Amendment, now a lot of the right is opposed to the First Amendment. So, like, how do we keep the First Amendment?
We
don't. I think this kind of is almost what Trump was referring to when he talks about the swamp. You know, they get a little taste of what they can earn for themselves, and they kind of go further into this, and actually doesn't become about America at all. And I think at this particular moment, you are seeing a fracturing on the right. There are people that are pro-America, America first. I am a person that considers myself pro-America, America first. And it absolutely makes my skin crawl when people try to tie America's success to what we have to do overseas. I believe in national sovereignty. I believe that America has what it takes here at home to be a great nation. And actually, I think history sort of tells us that once we started this campaign of international liberalism following World War II, things kind of started falling apart, especially this a steep decrease following the 1960s, without question. I mean, socially, morally, economically, this has been a nation that's in decline. And so I cannot stand when I see these politicians on stage emoting and saying sentences like, we can do both. Look around you. Does it look like we can do both? Where is your evidence to support the claim that America can do both? Because I'm looking around and it's very clear, it's very obvious that we cannot do both. Our children are failing academically. People are fearful to go into inner city communities. We have people that are suffering from depression, overdosing on fentanyl. We're fundamentally an unhappy nation because we don't have an identity because of these things. We don't have an identity. We've completely lost what it means to be an American. It is why I feel very inspired when I hear someone like Vivek Ramaswamy speak and talk about American principles. I hate the way that they illustrate their opinions about people that want that old America, that are nostalgic about that America. When someone says, and I've heard of this statement, and I can't remember who said it, but you can't be pro-American unless you're pro-Israel. I just thought of the person who's probably in West Virginia who had both his legs blown off, right, fighting overseas, who is pro-American, and you're telling him like, no, unless you agree that every single war should be everywhere, you're not pro-American. We've lost our identity. I mean, that's completely a foolish thing to say. And I say this as somebody who, if I was going to be radical.
As I've already said, I literally wrote something about this on my Substack within the last week and a half. You can go to my Substack, which is Carlyn, KARLYN.substack.com, and find it. That's what, like, that's the rundown. I'm sorry. I'm not going to do it right now.
Anything. I'm probably radically pro UK, right? I married a Brit. My children have dual citizenship. I would never utter the sentence that to be pro America means to be pro British. I love the Brits. I love everything about, I love being in the United Kingdom, but I know what it means to be pro American. It means to be pro American.
I couldn't, as someone who's ancestors from the UK, I couldn't agree more. You got to kind of wonder where this is going now that basically no one in the establishment in Washington is for the front runner in the Republican presidential primaries. Trump gets the nomination. Like, what happens then?
I think you're going to probably see the same things that we saw in 2015 and 2016. I think there has always been a never Trump contingent.
Right.
It has manifested itself now as pro DeSantis. A lot of the never Trumpers became very pro DeSantis.
True.
Some elements of it, obviously, people that are war hawks, people that want to kind of keep the military industrial complex going everywhere.
People who
have always been anti-Trump. So,
hate speech laws.
Yeah, hate speech laws that are dressed up as something more noble. And it's like, no, this is actually a law that is fundamentally anti-speech. And if you want to debate
the Democrats, the Republicans are not. Veronica, the Republicans have done nothing to fix any of the election integrity issues they've been complaining about since 2020. They've done absolutely nothing to fix them. The Republicans got their asses handed to them in the 2022 midterms because they took the bait on abortion. The Republicans also got their asses handed to them in the 2023 midterms that took place like a week and a half ago because they couldn't get their shit together on abortion. Do you really think that, given that we know that Republicans are lazy, they don't listen, they don't do any get out the vote operations, they have one activist. Republicans have one single activist. His name is Scott Pressler. He is the only one actually doing anything. They refuse to change their position on abortion. Everyone is like begging, can we please change our position on abortion? By the way, it's already too late to do that. They've already fucked themselves with that. So it honestly doesn't even really matter if they change their position on abortion. They're going to nominate Trump, who can't win. He can't win. The establishment's not going to allow it. Maybe if they nominated Vivek, they might have a chance. But Trump, they have spent years, the Republicans have spent years driving away every single new voter that they got to vote for them in 2020. I will personally never vote for a Republican again unless it's Vivek. I will vote for Vivek because I believe in him. And I've known him like a long time. And he is worth voting for. But I personally will never vote for a Republican again. Never. I don't care. Like, not with the way that they behave. And even if Trump wins, as Banjo's saying, Trump isn't going to do shit. So the Democrats are going to win. They're going to win. Like, it is what it is.
That we can and we should have that debate, but it again
Sorry.
always seems to be reduced to smears and libels and not an academic discussion, which it should be. So I don't think this is new. I think it's just kind of reappeared as something else. And we have always had these people. Will they, when they get to the ballot box, vote against Trump principally? Well, they did it in 2015 and 2016, and it didn't have an impact. And I think in 2020, they probably, I don't know if they cast their votes for Biden. I don't know that they would. I have taken myself out of political prognostications entirely.
Yeah.
It's very difficult, I think,
Wise.
now. Yeah, because
I think it's actually very easy,
I obviously
Candace.
am always hoping that America wins at the ballot box. People that are focused on American initiatives are focused on wanting citizens to be successful here, not making them feel guilty about wanting to feed their families, not making them feel guilty about what they're seeing at the gas station that they can't afford, despite the fact that they do what they're supposed to do day in and day out. They wake up, they go to work 9 to 5, and the government is taking everything and telling them that there's some new moral crusade. Every time you blink, there is a new moral crusade. How many have we lived through in just the last 2 years? COVID, it was a global moral
But
crusade.
food prices are never a moral crusade, I notice.
Never. God forbid you want to be able to afford a pack of bacon for your family. God forbid you say that publicly. Depending on what time of year it is, that makes you a grandma killer, that makes you whatever, a pro-Putin puppet, it makes you an anti-Semite, it makes you a racist. We get it, okay? We still would like to focus on our families. We still would like to put American principles first. So if there's no further argument and it's just going to be smears and libels, we like to turn the chapter and get talking about how we can actually do that, how we can actually fix America.
Who do you listen to when you're trying to figure out? I mean, some of the stuff comes at you so fast, and you're talking almost every day or writing almost every day. Who do you read or listen to try to make sense or bounce ideas off of?
You know,
Who do you
I
trust?
have been obsessed with Thomas Sowell. And everybody knows that I am pretty much a Thomas Sowell groupie. Everything he writes, I read. And it is because he was a part of my awakening story into politics and made me focus on the economics, which is to say, block out the noise and pay attention to the
Yes.
economics, go backwards in history to understand where we are. When has this worked? Oh, it's never worked. So they're just telling you that it's going to work into the future. And there's no evidence to support that. So I think a lot of times in this environment, it's important to almost block out the noise and to focus on the things that matter. The economic debates that people are having right.
I actually agree with Candace about that, although not on the Thomas Sowell piece. I have nothing against Thomas Sowell. I don't like I think he's good, but like I think that it's important. This is why I stopped listening to other influencers. Like at the beginning of 2021, I basically stopped listening to anyone doing commentary on the internet, and I started focusing on like primary source documentation. So I only was watching like primary source videos, looking at primary source documents, that sort of thing. And I'll tell you what, the reason that my community and my audience got so far ahead of where your average conservative commentator is because we stopped listening to the conservative commentators and we focused on looking at primary source evidence, primary source videos, primary source documents, like actually stuff in the school district, stuff going on in conference presentations, stuff going on in training, stuff like that. And because we were focused entirely in our fucking like little, I won't call it an echo chamber because it wasn't an echo chamber. A lot of us disagree on things, but like we had blinders on to all of the conservative commentary, all the bullshit. We ended up getting years ahead of where they were in our understanding of what was going on. And so if people are looking for like tips on how to know what's really going on, stop listening to these people. These people don't know what's going on. These people might know more than like normies about what's going on. But if you really want to be at the tip of the spear, if you want to be several steps ahead of the people who are supposed to know more than anyone about what's going on, you stop fucking listening to them and you focus entirely on primary sources. That's what will tell you what's going on. That's what will tell you where the trends are. That's what will tell you what's coming next. That's when the scary part really begins.
right now, which don't make sense. How much more debt can America be in as you're trying to convince us that we're going to get out of it if we just commit to one more war? By the way, where is all this money going? It's incredible to me that the government has the ability to reach into our accounts and to read every single line of what we spend down to your Zelle payments and your PayPal, and yet we just can't get an accounting for how they're spending their money. It's incredible when tech works and when tech fails people. I would say, in terms of being inspired by people, I am very much inspired for different reasons, and people will find this very weird. Obviously, I've been very open about the fact that I've been tremendously inspired by you in my career, and I'm not just saying about you. I've said this long before. Tucker Unleashed has been the greatest thing. It is something that we have needed, and it has been a great addition to the American campaign. I also am inspired by Elon Musk. He is so different from me, and we probably have very little in common. And yet, in this weird way, his fight for freedom, what he did for Twitter, is something. There are no words to illustrate what that actually meant in terms of the global conversation. He is a hero. You know, if everything else that he did was bad, he would be measured as a good man, and that's my belief.
I agree with that.
I'm inspired by people like Dana White.
Yeah.
The ability to, during BLM, absolutely love Dana White. People don't realize what sort of pressure was on him.
Yes.
To being the first person to say, we're not shutting down the UFC, allowing, by the way, which is something that is so beautiful, the differing opinions to take place at the UFC.
Oh, yeah.
He does not care if you come out in an Israeli flag, a Palestinian flag, a BLM flag, a pro-America flag, and then the press will put pressure on him, and you hear him, and he's like, so what? They're going to bash each other as soon as they get into the octagon. What are we going to tell them what they're going to think? That means something. These are little battles that we're winning, and people are fighting them on different fronts. And these are the cultural people, the political people. Thomas Massey, for being the most consistent congressman in terms of what he supports and what he doesn't support, is someone else that I admire. So there are a lot of different people that I admire, but I think what they all have in common is an underlying belief in freedom and a hatred for people who are trying to tell you it's freedom when they are trying to censor you and to belittle you and to smear you and to libel you.
It does feel, I mean, I'm going to end with this, but just your gut level sense of who's winning and who's losing right now. It seems to me, maybe I'm lying to myself, that the kind of moderate, sensible, common sense oriented people who want basically all the same things, happy, stable, safe life for their families, they do seem to be winning.
What I want to say to those people, because I know that sometimes you wonder if the world has gone mad. The world hasn't gone mad. Some people with big platforms who have gone mad. But it will always pay in the long run to stay on the side of morality, to be, moderate in your opinions, to not ever fault yourself for wanting to feed your family first.
Yes.
It makes perfect sense. I would never rush over while my child was dying and starving and feed the neighbor's child.
No.
Right? I would feed my child first, and if there was leftovers, I would obviously accommodate the person next door, and that's called being charitable. And I want those people to know that I do feel what you are feeling. And I think that we are in a unique time in America. I think the cultural conversation is switching. I think more people are beginning to buck bad trends. And the more of us who stand up for that morality, the more people that will be encouraged by that standing up and who will join us.
Do you find yourself thinking about God more than you used to?
Yes, without question.
Really?
Yes, it is just one of those things. I've never been more confident in who I am as a person. And I think that needs to be said. And a couple of years ago, or I would even say just getting started in politics, it's a wild world. And you do realize that people do sell out. You do realize that there are people that don't have courage to say certain things. There's a lot of backhanded messaging and texting that's going on because people have aligned themselves to groups and not principles, which I think is wrong. But something changed for me spiritually when I got married and when I had children.
Bullshit.
And I would
Fucking
say that
LARP.
I became laser focused. And I've never felt more secure. I've never felt more sure that I will land on my 2 feet if I follow a path that I deem to be righteous. And I am not speaking these things to myself. That's God operating. That is God that is operating, and it is the call upon all people to be righteous in their approaches to things. And that can be very difficult in politics. But I'm confident, and I think people are either very angry about that confidence. I think they can see the happiness that I have, and they're angry because that means that it's less of an ability to control what I say and to control what I think. But I'm still the same girl from the wrong side of the tracks. I understand people, and I I can't sell out to anybody. I demand to be free.
It's not an arrogant, false
Stunning,
confidence,
stunning
Bill.
and brave,
And I
Candace.
find it
Stunning and
inspiring.
brave.
Candace Owens, thank you very much.
Stunning.
What an honor. I'm so
And congratulations
excited.
on this baby. I can't overstate. I don't want any tight shots on Candace, but like we're days away.
Yeah, literally minutes away.
The fire department's on standby. Tradition to say. Candace Owens, what an honor. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
All right, guys. Well, that is the end of the Candace Owens Tucker Carlson interview. Now, I wanted a little bit more tea about the Daily Wire, but Candace is actually playing this exactly the way she should be playing it, which is she's basically setting Ben up to look like the bad guy. And she's going to come out looking like, I am but a good and faithful Christian, and I am just doing Christ's work. Ben Shapiro, why do you hate Jesus Christ, Ben Shapiro? Why do you hate Jesus? That's what Candace is setting Ben up for. Illustration Station says, I just now bought the audio version of your book, Actively Unwoke. Can't wait to listen to it. Well, I hope you enjoy it. I recorded the audio version of my book in like 3 days because the original person who, this is a fun fact, I was actually just talking about this with someone earlier today, and people in my community will remember this when it happened. The original person who recorded my audiobook recorded it like the Wicked Witch of the West. And it wasn't a choice that I made. It was a choice my publisher made. And when I heard the record, and they never ran it by me, and the day it got released, like a bunch of people in my community were like, Carlin, what the fuck is this? And I listened to it, and the original audio recording literally sounded like it was the Wicked Witch of the West. And then we all started researching this woman. We find out that my publisher had outsourced the recording of my audiobook to a woke leftist. And I was like, are you fucking shitting me? You gave my book about fighting back against the woke left to a woke fucking leftist to read? I still have the original version on my phone. And so then I said to my publisher, I was like, one of two things is going to happen. Either I am going to re-record the audio version of my book myself, or I'm going to record it myself for free and put it on the internet for free. I literally threatened them. I was like, if you assholes don't let me record my book the way it should be read, not this Wicked Witch of the fucking West version, I am going to record it and release it on the internet for free. And then they were like, yes, Carlin, you can re-record the audiobook. And I was like, great. And then I actually proposed to them at one point. I was like, you know what we should, I proposed to them. I said, we can have my version of the audiobook and the woke version of the audiobook, and then people can choose. I was like, maybe we keep this Wicked Witch of the West version of the audiobook and we label that the woke reading of the audiobook, but I do the unwoke reading of the audiobook. They didn't like that idea. They didn't like it at all. And for that reason, I will never work with a publisher again. Self-publishing from now on, because I had to re-record my own audiobook in like 3 days. When I actually, like, all the recording, like I actually live streamed the re-recording of my audiobook because I had to do it very, very quickly because I was going out of town. It needed to get done. And so I had to read my entire GD audiobook in like a couple of days when I wasn't planning on doing it because I had to compensate for the Wicked Witch of the West version of the audiobook. Anyway. Guys, that's all I have for right now. We will be back tomorrow for happy hour. Please make sure you are subscribed to my Substack. Let me point out a couple of articles for people who've been asking. So people have been asking about, let's see. Let's go to my archive. I'll show you what articles to read. People have been asking, what does the Marxist utopia life look like under the Marxist utopia? Well, I have this article, and if you actually go, the best way to find this article, go to the Woke 101 section at the top of the Substack, and it's the very first article. So in Woke 101, Life in the Marxist Utopia, this will detail what life will look like in the Marxist utopia. So if you want to know what happens when we end up losing, that is going to detail that. And then, did I put this up on the Substack? I'm pretty sure I did. This is the timeline. So if you want to know when all this is going to happen, I also have the Marxist Cultural Revolution timeline. Both of those articles are on the Substack if you want more information. I think I also have clips talking about the Marxist utopia timeline. So Yeah, all that stuff is available on the Substack. If you guys want to support the work I'm doing, you can sign up on the Substack for $8 a month or $80 a year. When you sign up on the Substack, not only do you help me meet my goal of getting 200 new paid supporters by the end of the year, but you will also fund my biggest woke infiltration ever. If only there was someone out there who was infiltrating woke teacher trainings and showing you what's coming down the pike. If only there was a good guy out there, Dave Rubin. If only there were good guys out there who were taking time out of their schedule to infiltrate multi-day woke teacher trainings to tell people what the teachers are learning, which is inevitably going to make its way into the classroom. Oh, wait, I'm doing that. And you can join me live if you become a supporter on my Substack, $8 a month, $80 a year. I really do appreciate it. This ain't never going to happen. James Lindsay doesn't like me. He sees me as competition for some reason. I don't know why. I've never done anything but support him, but that's a dream that's never going to happen. I don't think. Maybe I'm wrong. But I like James Lindsay, even if James Lindsay doesn't like me. So, guys, that is all I have for right now. I'm going to go take a break, do some work, chill out, eat some food because I haven't eaten yet today. Someone said earlier Carlin needs a Snickers. Carlin does need a fucking Snickers. But I think I'm going to go eat dinner instead. All right, guys, that's all we have for right now. I'll see you later. Bye.